those who are responsible for different public services in the country. Against the backdrop of the weather and everything else, I therefore would like to encourage us to let us start. I see one mic there. Is there only one mic in the house tonight, please? Mr. Morris? This is the only mic for persons?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And against that backdrop, therefore, the floor is now open to persons. Thank you. Just give us your name and your rough address. Don't need the number of the house nor the name of the house, but the district.
Okay. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anthony Williams, and I'm from St. Michael, West Central. I didn't hear what you said, Madam Prime Minister. Oh, Fairfield, Blackrock, St. Michael. Can I go ahead? Right, I would like to address the panel on two issues which is of national significance. And by the way, I feel like Gordon Greenwich opening the batting. I hope that I don't get clean ball tonight.
I just came from launching Sir Wes Hall's book. So I don't know if I'm to be the fast bowler or the batsman.
Right. What I would like to speak about is Republic Day. You know, I remember last year when Barbados became a republic. To be honest, I was very excited. You know, because I believe that we have moved from one position to another. And then a few thousand began to scream and keep noise. And because of that, we are celebrating independence. Let me just give a scenario of what I think of independence. I see Massa going to the auction house, purchasing a slave, taking him to his plantation and saying to him, "My son, you're free to come and go as you please." And that person begins to celebrate, "Hooray, I am independent, I am free," but still he belongs to Massa. And he continued to celebrate. And then after 54 years, Massa comes to him and says, "My son, you are free. I no longer owns you." And that person began to celebrate, "Hooray, Republic Day. Happy." And he goes his way, merry way, happy to know this is Republic Day. And then 55 years after the following year, he says, "You know something? I like the idea of being on the Massa shirt table. I want back Independence Day. I do not like the idea that I am free and rid myself of my colonial masters." And because of that, I believe that we need to sit down and seriously consider what we have achieved. St. Vincent, Jamaica, Antigua, all of those countries are saying, "Look at Barbados. Barbados have moved from one position and transitioned to another. Free at last, the shackles are off." You know, I was looking at an online, I think it's an online magazine, not too sure what it is. It named, I can't remember the name right now, but it was speaking about who is the number one leader in the Caribbean. And they named our Prime Minister, Mayor Motley, as that person. But while listening to the program, the person said something. The person said, "And this year, Barbados will be celebrating Republic Day." It isn't only Barbados, but it is other countries that are looking on at us and wondering what we are doing. People of Barbados, we are considered one of the most educated people in this region, and maybe the wider world. But sometimes I feel when it comes to our history and our heritage, we are the least educated. We need to understand who we are, where we came from, and what being a republic means to the people of Barbados. A few thousand people may shout and scream, but we need to educate our people so that we can embrace where we have come from and where we are at this particular point. That is my submission there. I have one more submission. I don't know if you want me to speak or should I pause?
No, you continue, sir.
Okay. I hope I don't get leg before for this submission. But I would like to speak about our national heroes. We have 11 national heroes. And the fact that we have 11 national heroes, of the 11, I believe that former Prime Minister and national hero Errol Barrow is probably the greatest of them. For me personally, it is Bassett. But the reason why I said Barrow is because of the 11 national heroes, he is the only one that has a day. As a bank holiday, January the 21st is Errol Barrow Day. Okay? National hero Errol Barrow is known primarily for two things. And I'm sure that you all know what are those two things. We hear about it. He gave us free education, and he led us into independence. Those two things. First of all, we need to understand that it was Grantley Adams that actually introduced free education to Barbados. And he did that in 1952. What happened in 1962 was the fact that our former hero, Errol Barrow, made it free for everyone. And then came 2014. I am sure you all remember what happened in 2014. It was taken away from us. 6,000 people were disenfranchised or more because of one act of the then Prime Minister. But I want to stand here and say thank you to the Prime Minister here and her cabinet, because in 2018, it was given back to the people of Barbados. So I'm saying, if national hero Grantley Adams is known as the person who introduced free education to Barbados, and national hero Barrow was responsible for giving it to everyone, then we have to acknowledge Prime Minister Mortley as the person who restored free education to the masses.
Okay, thank you very much.
I just want to say one more thing, and then I finish.
Thank you very much. But I think that there's no need for us to continue the conversation on that. Suffice it to say that on the first matter that you raised, the issue of whether we are celebrating the Republic or independence or whatever, the people and government of Barbados are celebrating everything. As to what we call it, became engulfed in a maelstrom of confusion, largely because a strap line from a newspaper said Independence Day. What was the strap line? Independence Day no more. Now, there could be nothing that is further from the truth, because without democracy and universal adult suffrage, we would not have had independence. And without independence, we would not have had a republic. So that there is a continuum in the development, and I think you reflected that in your speech earlier. To that extent, because this has become the subject of divisive commentary, the government paused, because the one thing that day must not be, the day that defines Barbados' journey for freedom, from universal adult suffrage to independence to republic, is that the one thing it must not be is divisive. Now, there are realities to some of the things that people have recommended, and the government is going to therefore appoint an independent committee to review these matters and report back to us. But let me say this. Every time we talk about a bank holiday, there are consequences to it. And the reality is that our businesses in a lot of the areas in this country are already on the margins, some of them, in terms of trying to survive. The one day that actually attracts triple pay is which day?
Christmas.
Sorry?
Christmas Day.
Independence Day.
Independence Day.
You understand? So that we need to be able to settle ourselves and reach a point where all of us as Barbadians can reflect on what is in the national interest of all in a way that does not have the partisan undertones that regrettably we may otherwise see others wanting to promote. And that is why the government paused, because the only thing that matters to us is ensuring that we are in a position to take the shackles of colonialism and exploitation and oppression off of us. And we are conscious that it is not going to happen simply because we change a law or because we establish a day. I walk around with a picture of Bob on my phone every day because, in my view, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery is the greatest mission that our generation must help to propel for our people. And it is against that backdrop, therefore, that if we accept this as a journey and a continuum, then we need to begin to understand that labels ought not to consume us, but the substance of what we are trying to do ought to be the mission that each of us is involved in and committed to. So I want to thank you for your comments. I want to say to you that this is the first opportunity I'm having publicly to speak to it, but that there will be a committee that the government will have that will advise, and as one nation on most things, we will make that decision again. But what I want Barbadians to understand, that in the same way, yes, we give thanks for the right to vote, because there was a time in 1945 when people like me, 1944, sorry, people like me, women and here, could not vote. That was changed. In 1950, the Universal Adult Suffrage Act was passed because in order to vote in this country, you had to own property. And if you didn't own property, you couldn't have a vote, so it was not a case of one man, one vote. And that too was changed. And initially it was for people 21 years and over, and that was subsequently amended to go to 18 and under. In 1966, we decided to take the yoke off of the colonial ties and no longer loiter on colonial premises with the Act of Independence. And that too allowed us to have responsibility, and Barbados was unique, unlike other countries, because Barbados Parliament had responsibility for taxation of its own citizens. And when other parliaments in the Caribbean in the late 19th century were forced to go back to Crown Colony parliaments, the Barbados Parliament did not. But the major difference came with independence, with our being able to conduct our own external relations as well as to continue to take more responsibility for our own affairs. But our parliament had a unique position as compared to others. And then we carried it further last year because we felt that every boy and girl in this country should be able to grow up and one day aspire to be able to occupy the highest state in the land. Because more than anything else, we understood that the notion of someone who we do not know occupying that position of preeminence as head of state undermine the individual confidence of each and every Barbadian. Now, if any of those things are unworthy of celebration, then I rest my case and go back into history, because I really don't know what else we would be doing if we do not accept that at every stage of the journey, we have made progress to be able to perfect the state that we have and to perfect the image that we have of ourselves. And I pray that our country will continue to be focused on substance rather than titles alone, because it is in the focusing on that substance that we are going to dig deep, each and every one of us, and build every day to make this country a better place. Yesterday I had cause to repeat that this is a season to build, and I mean that. If ever there was a time that Barbados needs each and every one of us, it is now. So thank you, sir, and we look forward to the report of that committee sometime next year, whenever the committee is established and it consults, and we will share it with the public. But for now, I want all Barbadians to recognize that what must consume us is the substance of the journey and not the titles that others would want us to associate with the journey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening to the Prime Minister and panel, and to everyone here this evening. I am grateful.
Ma'am, you may need to just come in a little closer.
Okay.
And just give us your name again, thanks. David, you see what I mean? With even if you could get a little more warmth.
Yeah. I live in.
Your name is Phyllis Cox?
Yes, please. I live in Government Hill, Gittins Road, Government Hill, St. Michael's. I want to say I'm grateful to have a Prime Minister that are willing to listen to the pain of the public. I have applied to national housing for 37 years for land and was turned around, never be successful. Each time I would go, they would give me a new paper with different places where I have to choose a lot from. I would do that. At this point in my life, I am renting land for 28 years where my house is on. I received a letter stating the land is being subdivided and I have to remove my house from the land. I went back to National Housing and was told I could only be offered house and land. What do I do with my house? I cannot afford the package. Can you please help me?
Ma'am, I was about to stop you because whoever told you at National Housing that they can't help you because you want a piece of land alone as opposed to house and land clearly does not understand the mission of National Housing Corporation. Could I ask you to step one side and to see my assistant there, please? And let us be very clear that this government supports a program started by a previous Barbados Labour Party government called the Sites and Services Program. And the Sites and Services Program was where we agreed to make lots available to people, provide the services in for the people, but the people move their own house or build their own house. So far from not helping you, I would like to help a lot more like you. So could you please step one side and let us make sure that your information is taken and that we can handle it in a seamless and dignified way. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Come along. Good night. Good night, Madam Prime Minister, all members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Evadne Turney. I live in Spruce Street, the city of Bridgetown. I'm here tonight not because of me, but because of where I work, terms and conditions, and treatment. Madam Prime Minister, I stayed behind you all for many years, and your favorite words were always stay the course. I am staying the course. My workers are staying the course, but with conditions and treatments from some of management at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, we can't bear it no more. When you ask to speak to the Minister of Health, you are being told he is unavailable. He can't speak to you now. Come back or call back. When you call, you know what you're getting? You're getting a machine going right in your answer by a machine. Why put machines in place when human beings could do the work then? You know why? Because nobody can answer you. We were in a condition under some supervisors that treat us badly. Verbally, they abuse us. They tell us some things that if you answer them, Madam Prime Minister, you know me personally, if you answer them, they're threatening you. You're living in fear going to work.
Okay, so let's control it. You know, I suspect better than I know, that this is not the place to solve this issue, correct? No, Evadne, is this the place to solve a matter? First of all, you and I know something called the law of natural justice, correct?
Yeah, yes.
Which means that both sides deserve to be heard, correct?
But yes, ma'am.
So hear me. My commitment to you is to ensure that you are heard and the other side is heard. So I would like you once again to go and let us take the information and let us ensure that a meeting is held between yourselves, the supervisors, and the management of QEH, and where necessary, the workers' representatives, if you have representatives. So whether it is NUPW or whoever, and let us bring everybody to the table and let us get it solved. The one thing I know, and you come from a big family, I know that you and everybody in the family don't get on every day, every year, every week. You understand? So that the fact that we may have a moment where people are not getting on does not mean that we cannot solve the problem and we cannot bring everybody back to a level place, correct?
I understand what you say, Madam Prime Minister, clearly.
So if you do, then what I'm asking you to do, and I give you the assurance that a meeting will take place in the next 10 days, and I'm only saying 10 days because next week is Independence too, correct? So we got bank holiday in there as well. I am giving you the assurance that in the next 10 days, there will be an engagement that will allow you and others to be able to express yourself and to get to the bottom of the problem, whether it is disrespect, whether it is something more substantive. It is a fair point that if a person has a concern in any workplace, our first responsibility is to do what? To give them a what? To give them a hearing. And you will be entitled to that hearing.
Understandable.
Okay? And I will make sure that equally that the hearing does not come with recriminations that we are aware about, and if it does, then people will have to answer to all of us. So breathe. Let us get that meeting in the course of the next 10 days or so and make sure that we can treat to those issues, because as you know and I know, These things are going live, and the people who you are talking about have a right to be heard. And if we continue to let you speak about it, it means that one side will go to the public, and it may or may not be accurate. I don't know. But what I do know is that, to be fair, I need to make sure that all of y'all are in the same room and that somebody is in there dealing with it in a fair and equitable manner. All right? So I thank you for raising it, because the angst I hear in your voice is that this is causing you a lot of burden and concern and probably sleepless nights. So I hear that. You get that. All right?
And I just want you to know, for the next 10 days that you promised we will have this meeting, we will all go with threats that we don't have a job. But I just sleep comfortable.
My dear, tell me who is going to be brave enough to dismiss people when there is an industrial dispute pending. Tell me who. You understand? So you need to cool down. You need to cool down. I know you long too. You need to cool down. And when I tell you that our responsibility is for fairness, and whether that fairness means that you come out the meeting and you right, or you come out the meeting and you wrong, or you come out the meeting and you half right and half wrong, whatever it takes, everybody's going to have their opportunity. This country has had 80 years of established industrial practice. We know how to do it. Let us do it.
10 days now.
Right? So please go, and I will make sure that the meeting takes place. All right? Who's next? Thank you.
Madam Prime Minister,
forgive me, remember we set some ground rules. People having to stand up and having to stand up for the whole night. So if you are intent on speaking tonight, these seats here that are separated from all the others are for those who have gone to the table that says PMO, put your name over there, get the number, and come back and sit here. Once you sit here, you can move to the mic as the next person. You will remember the number you were given. So far, three persons have spoken. So there must be a number 4, a number 5, a number 6, whatever. If you do that, then people don't have to stand up and wait in line for an hour or hour and a half. Okay, so PMO table, just give your name, get a number, and then come back and take one of these middle seats. If you've already gone to the table, then you should remain in the middle seat here. Continue.
firstly, I would like to confirm that I got a number and that was number 2. But once I'm heard, the position is not important to me. Madam Prime Minister, members of Parliament, brothers and sisters, my name is Colin Carter. I live at Atlantic Shores, Christchurch. Like the late, great Errol Barrow said, I sometimes linger on Her Majesty's doorstep after closing time. For business purposes, I have been loitering on her doorstep for 60 years. I'm very pleased to be here, and this answers one of my questions. Prior to leaving London on the 5th of this month to come here, my daughter asked me this question. I'm now working on a project that I do believe would be beneficial to Barbados, and she asked me this question. After you, what can the descendants of Barbados do to help Barbados? I do believe that our mission in London is not doing enough. So there are young descendants of Barbadians who would like to thrust in their penny's worth to help Barbados. Now I can tell you that it was Barbadians overseas since the 1800s that made a sterling contribution to Barbados, starting with those Barbadians who went to Panama. At one time, I think the fourth or fifth highest earner for Barbados was remittances sent in by overseas Barbadians. We have lost that because most Barbadians by birth are now old or dead. We have to put in train a program to harness our young Barbadians in the diaspora to work and contribute for Barbados. And I think that some of them are eager to do that. I know that you had a program for 2020, but COVID put pay to that. I would like you to put a shot in the arms of that idea, the 2020 idea, and ask your overseas missions to work assiduously with young Barbadians so that they can make a contribution. I have my own ideas what I would want them to do, but I would like to discuss this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Only yesterday, I had cause in addressing one of the gatherings that I spoke to reinforce the need for us to be able to redouble our efforts to have the database of Barbadians and Barbadian descendants across the world properly perfected and continuously so. Largely because if we are not having enough people here to carry the weight of lifting this society, and if we are going to face, as has been predicted by the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, that 1 in every 2 Barbadians will be over the age of 65 by the year 2050. We do not have enough time to do it the normal, natural way. And therefore, the first thing we must do is issue a clarion call to Bajans and the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of Bajans wherever they are. So your comments as to our capacity to harness Barbadians in the diaspora, broadly defined as not just those who are born here, but those whose navel string at some point in the past was here, is entirely appropriate and finds resonance with the government. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade has responsibility for diasporic relations, and regrettably COVID put paid one to the gathering, and COVID put paid also to our engagement across the diaspora in a way that we would normally do so. Cabinet will at some point look at a new date, a new year for we gathering, because we believe that the excitement which it generated in the first 10 weeks of the year portended for an extraordinary engagement and gathering of the families. And the fact that it was disrupted will probably make, when we do it again, even sweeter, because there is nothing like celebrating a journey that was difficult to navigate. So thank you for raising it, and I give you the assurance that at the appropriate time, once Cabinet has settled these matters, probably early next year, we will be in a position to announce when we think we can resume that wonderful exercise of gathering the generations back onto the rock. Thank you, sir.
Good night, everyone. Good night to the panel. Good night, Madam Prime Minister. My name is Roseanne Brathwaite. I am from the St. Barnabas area. My matter tonight is that I have been subbing for like 5 years. I'm the only breadwinner in the family. And my last day of working at the QEH was on the 30th. Similarly to Ivani's issue, there's a lot of victimization, and I know tonight is not the night
to discuss that, but I would like to know where I can get assistance so that I will be able to meet my commitments monthly.
My dear, I'm not going to do it for you and to expose you to any further things publicly. The reason why we have all these tables there now is to be able to take people's information in a dignified and quiet way. So I'd like to encourage you to quietly go there, and I really want to encourage anybody else who's coming up with something personal that you don't need to have a conversation with the world through the internet, that the government is sensitive enough that we not only have a range of public offices and departments here, but we also have dedicated desks here for you. Okay? So I hear you. I want to address the broader systemic issue, and that is the systemic issue of subbing for protracted and extended periods of time. And I give you the assurance that in the same way, this is the same government, and perhaps the difference was that it was central government, and we need to ensure that the state-owned enterprises follow it in the same way. But this is the government that said that if you have been in an acting position for more than 3 years, as of October, it was October 2020, that's when it was, correct? That you would be appointed. And over 6,000 people, 6,000 people or so, I'm told, were appointed. In addition, there were about just over 850 people who felt that they were disadvantaged by some reason of how they were acting and where they went and if the 3 years was continuous or not. And we provided at law for an appellate process, an appeals process to the president. She was then Governor General, now the president. And only yesterday I was able to learn that over 750 of those appeals have been completed by the president, and that the remaining 100 are in some way just awaiting information from the Ministry of Public Service in one respect or another. And as soon as that information is available, Her Excellency the President will complete it. Why I thank you for raising what you've raised is because it is clear to me that we now have to extend this to ensure that state-owned enterprises have also followed suit in terms of central government. And even though we want to assume that they have, I think that we need to ensure that the line ministers who have responsibility for the accountability of state-owned enterprises will confirm over the course of the next few weeks how many people have been subbing or acting in positions of 3 years or more, and for the institution to show cause why that person should not be immediately appointed, unless, of course, there are negative references and reports on the individual. And I can't override that because that is a summary of a factual situation. Is that fair?
Correct.
Lord bless you. Thank you. So just at the personal level, do what you have to do there. But at the generic level, Cabinet will follow up this with respect to the SOEs and the extended periods of subbing. Thank you for raising it.
Good night, Madam Prime Minister, members of Parliament, parliamentarians, friends. I don't have no concern. I just want to say to St. Michael's that these meetings are very productive meetings. I had someone attending one of these meetings with a grave concern, and the Prime Minister pulled her apart and said she would deal with her. I want to say here and now that she had her operation done today. So I know, so I can attest, I attended all except St. Philip one. So I can attest that these meetings are productive meetings, and I know in no uncertain terms, we have a gem of a Prime Minister. And so long as my Prime Minister says that she is going to do it, it will be done. So have no fear. I know we are in good hands. Thank you.
Thank you, but I want to disabuse you, Saitomia, of the belief that things happen because of me and me alone. Hold on, let me finish. No, it's important for me to do so. Because we live in a culture today where everybody feels that it is all about celebrity status or one man or one woman status. You see this table here? You see how many people at the table? But this is only part of the team. You understand? And if each of us don't come to work every day to carry our part of the weight, look, I can't lift this. Huh? But if I ask the others to come and help me lift it, all of a sudden they're going to say, what else you want lifting? And these meetings, for me, is not only about us listening, but it is also a mechanism for sharing perspectives and values with Bajans. And that is why I come here. I'm tired as hell tonight. You see me, I didn't even get home. Come straight from West Hall book launch, from meetings all day with Corey and others, can tell you. But this is perhaps the most important engagement because one, it is about hearing people, but two, it is about conversations that hopefully will influence people to understand how we as a society and we as a country ought to behave. So I thank you for your comments. That's why I stopped the first man from talking, because I know where he was going to. You understand? But this country needs to understand more than ever that the mission or the journey, whatever you want to call it, will only be successful when the majority of us are lifting weight. And for that lady to have the operation today meant that a range of people from my office following up to the Ministry of Health doing what it was supposed to do to everybody else doing so and coming together like cogs in a wheel, the process and the system worked. And what we need to do is to get Barbados back to a spot. You see the second lady who came up asking for a house spot to put a house on, she should not need to come to any politician to be able to access housing in this country or house spots in this country. And our responsibility is to be able to have government function in a way where ordinary citizens can believe that they can access public services without somebody having to call a favor for them. There's no need for us to be reminded, and Lil Rick captured it better than anybody else when he said what? A get through. A get through is a cultural commentary on a system that so resembles the plantation system and the colonial framework of divide and rule that does not see people and does not allow people to function and be the best that they can be without seeking to have some kind of, the word I want to use I shouldn't use, some kind of relationship. Even that word is a little offensive, but the one I was planning to use was perhaps worse. But some kind of relationship that causes them to have to depend on somebody else in order to get through on 166 square miles. And if you want to know what being a republic is also to be about, it is about promoting a meritocracy and promoting opportunity. And if we can promote the fact that an ordinary boy or girl born in Government Hill or Carignan Village can grow up to be the best that they can be and to be the president of this country on the basis of worth and merit, then all of the people that help that little boy or girl who need a house, who need a house spot, who need to be able to access welfare services or this service or whatever, should be able to do so. So I thank you for the opportunity of allowing me to speak to this. Because the older I get and the more gray hair I get, the more I know that there are some conversations that we have to have as a country. And if we don't have them as one family in this country, then we are going to reap what we sow. And the first thing that has to go is the belief that we are only about some form of hero worship. I accept and recognize that leaders must happen. But I also accept and recognize that leadership is a collective as well, and not just an individual pursuit. So thank you, my love.
Good evening. I hope you can hear me clearly up there. My name is Basil Maughan, Maughan, please, or LME. I would like, first of all, to express my appreciation.
Sorry, where are you from, sir?
Sorry, First Avenue, Haggard Hall, up the hill. First Avenue, Haggard Hall. Got it. Yeah, I would first like to express my appreciation for you, ma'am, and your teams, because there have been a few changes since 2018, but what you all have done for this country in the past 4 years or so. It has been a tremendous task and a tremendous challenge, and I think you all have really risen to the occasion. I would also like to express my appreciation for what you have personally done in terms of making us more aware, or making the world, rather, more aware of us as an island and as a country. I didn't come here, though, I just wanted to say that, but I didn't come here to praise anyone. I came here to mention the fact that because of the weather, out by me, we have been having a lot of potholes that have occurred. So up to today, for instance, I'm driving down the road there, First Avenue, which is between the iMart building and Starbucks, and I have to drive like it's an obstacle course. And old cars like old people have a problem with joints if subject to abuse. So I don't want somebody to come to me 2 weeks before the election to fix it because they may have to present them with a bill for shocks. So I just wanted to throw that out. So I would like some redress on that. And the next matter is, this is not a complaint, this is a suggestion. I would like to see established in Barbados a planetarium. I have seen one in Bogota in Colombia, and it's a fantastic piece of work, and it can do a lot for the education of children in Barbados because you can get to see what the Milky Way looks like, you can get to see what the other constellations and everything look like, and that could inspire some small child to become an astronomer, to go into physics and chemistry and so on. So, and also what the sky above Barbados looks like, and so on. So I know it is not something that can be done anytime soon, but the idea has to be planted before anything can be done. I just want to say that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maughan. On the first point to do with the potholes, ironically, yesterday in Robin Shoulders, we were near in the area. We didn't go in First Avenue, Haggett Hall, but we went up by Roberts Road. And as you know, the work has started up there in terms of the repaving. When I had visited that earlier in the year, it was awful, as you would probably have known. Part of the difficulty is, and the Ministry of Public Works is looking, and I'll let Santia talk in a second, to be able to redesign the standards that we have to build to. Because the standards that were appropriate for a pre-climate crisis Barbados cannot now be appropriate for one where we have convection rain coming in the afternoon, where we have these short, sharp showers. And of course, flooding is really when the water stays on the ground for a protracted period of time. But colloquially, we say flooding happens when the water gathers. But the water will always gather because of where it's coming from, either up top or from hills above. But the question is, how fast can it run off? Okay? And we have also, and as I said, I'm going to let Santia speak, but we are very grateful for the work that is being done, but we equally know that the challenges that face us have expanded considerably because of the change in climate. On the second point with the planetarium, I thank you for the suggestion, and I'd like to say this. One of the things that defines the maturation of a society is the extent to which causes can find support from non-governmental sources and charitable sources. And mercifully, there's a lot of philanthropic organizations regionally and globally that have dedicated focuses. So that if there are people in Barbados, for example, who believe and want to expand people's knowledge about space and about the universe and may want to work with the observatory in Marsha's, your constituency, correct? With the observatory, I'm sure now that as an ardent member of parliament, that she can take up this cause with you and see how we can raise funds both domestically and internationally in order to expand the horizons of our citizens. And I'm even more fortified by it. People ask me, what does a country like Rwanda do got having a space agency? Because they are citizens of the world. And Barbadians are citizens of the world too. So I look forward to, and I thank you for raising it, and I look forward to perhaps, Marsha, you're taking the lead, and we can talk and discuss who are some of the possible sources for us to get. In addition to that, it will be not only for education of Bajans, but it would be something that would be an attraction for all who visit the country as well. So you score on all points. Santia?
Thank you. And I know where Minister Marsha Kettle's office is. Thank you.
Thank you, PM. Just to the latter point, in relation to the potholes, I know that this has been a major issue at almost every Parish Speaks that we have had. And I can say to you that particularly after perhaps the fourth Parish Speaks, one of the things that the BWA and the Ministry of Public Works sought to do was to have a joint meeting. It falls under the same ministry. And therefore, we had a joint meeting to be able to deal not only with the potholes, but to look at road reinstatement generally. Because a lot of people were complaining that the road gets dug up and then, months later, years later, nobody has come back to be able to fix it. So we've agreed in principle that there are some aspects that the MTW will obviously deal with in terms of reinstatement. That means as well that if we see potholes along the same road, that we're not just going in to fix the areas where BW was in to repair, but it means that the team has to obviously look at the entire road and to be able to address the concerns of the residents in those areas. So I don't want a situation where you just go to fix one area, but then you leave the community and you haven't addressed it. Now that means that obviously it may take a little bit more time for the officers to be able to complete the works, but the truth of the matter is that what has been compounding the issue, as the gentleman spoke to, is the weather. With all the best intentions, sometimes the teams have been setting out to be able to do the potholes, but then the rain comes down either before or after and completely interferes with the progress of the works. So I just want to say to the public that we are mindful of the challenges. These issues have been going on for some time, but as soon as we can get some dry weather, I give you the assurance that we're increasing the number of teams that can actually do the pothole patching, as well as making the case to the Prime Minister, who has traveled the length and breadth of Barbados and recognized that we need to see an increase in the patching teams to be able to have more equipment and more teams to be able to assist us. And just to say as well that we are utilizing some of the workers from the ASH worker program, which then became the National Cleanup Program, to help to integrate them into doing a number of these duties as well to assist the country. So just want to give you that assurance that we are on the ball in relation to that, all right?
Thank you.
Hi, good night, everyone. My name is Azhad Mungir from Shockloy.
I'm not hearing you, so you're going to have to speak into the mic, thanks.
Hi, good night. My name is Azhad Mangira from Strathclyde, from the constituency of St. Michael West. I have a few concerns, mostly regarding the roadworks. So one of the main concerns was in Strathclyde. If you are familiar with the area, there's two schools. One is the Rock Christian School, and one is the Al-Falah School, just close by. The sidewalk is in need of great repair. It have not been done. The last administration, I personally have sent letters, phone calls. They came, they got an arm's length portion of the road and leave it for months. They came back and put concrete in the same place. Leaving it same and it's worse. When you get a few days ago, and to make it worse is right by the zebra crossing in front of the Rock Christian School. So school children, sometimes they're going to school and they slide down. They have to go to school in dirty uniform. We have, and it's so unfortunate that we have a sidewalk where pregnant women with their children, with their family, they cannot stand on the sidewalk because when you are going to the direction of Peter King, there's a stone in the middle of the sidewalk, so it cannot be avoided. Where I have a personal family relative, when she was pregnant, she felt there and she was traumatized. After having her first pregnancy, she was traumatized because she didn't know in her head what's wrong, what's going to happen, all of these things. So these things, before it happens, before death is happened, before anything happens, I ask that this situation be dealt with students in the near locality be dealt with. Also, but now going to the city of Bridgetown, Kensington New Road. As you know, before elections in January, we had a meeting in the mosque where Santi and Mr. Lane they had attended, and we had also raised the concern of the road, which for over 30 years have been difficulty for our residents of Kensington New Road and alike. As you may know, the road is currently being dealt with by, I think, the gas company. And also, when the canal was the work was being done, the trucks there had damaged all the sidewalls of the guttering. So when you are coming from Fontainebleau going up, you'll see on the left side, most of them have dropped in. Their water, because of that, water has stopped flowing. And then in our community, as you know, we have elders, very elders, and he's probably around 90-something, probably could be 96. He lived immediately opposite the mosque, and for him, it's very difficult back and forth, because he's not well, he has to be taken by someone, and to be from there to the mosque, he has to be driven in a car, which is 30 seconds walking, and that have been a cry for the people of the city of Bridgetown and for all alike. They have been having this play. So he asks that this problem with Kensington New Road and Strathclyde be dealt with as a matter of urgency.
Thank you, sir. You were about to say something else, sorry?
And another question. Before 2018 election, before this election, we had the Muslim community, they had asked for a prayer room, a multi-faith area in the airport and the seaport. If you look, this is not something locally or regionally, this is something internationally, where you find in all international airports, where there's long stayovers, you find the need, where there's multi-faith, there's not one, is only for persons who are Muslim to pray. We have they're in a room in England, there's one corner where there's the bench and the cross, and one corner there's for Jews, one corner is for us. And so we should not be deprived, and if Barbados wants to be a hub for the world, we should be adapting to these. Understood.
And I thank you for that. I know that the matter of the prayer room was referred to the Grantley Adams International Airport. The new Minister of International Transport is here, and I am sure that he will follow up and report back as we're reporting back on a number of things going forward. And you've added the seaport. This is the first I'm hearing a request for the Bridgetown port, but you can also treat to that as well too. With respect to the other matters pertaining to the roads and the gutters, Santia?
We've noted the concerns in Kensington. Obviously, we're trying to look at the issue of the sewering as well in those areas. And I think if we dig up the roads now to be able to then later have to come back and dig them up, you're not going to be so happy either. So we've actually been addressing a more comprehensive plan to be able to do not just the road, but also to address those concerns. And I can tell you that we've been actively, with Barbados Water Authority, the wastewater division, we've been looking at how we can address not just in your area, but also the Bellevue tenantry, all of the areas where the groundwater is obviously going to be compromised if we don't address it. So it is not as straightforward as saying, let's go in and dig up the road. As PM and I were saying, you need to have covers over the gutters as well, because a number of them are open also. I know they've been going in and doing a bit of patching as well, because I get photographs from time to time of issues out there, similar to what the gentleman spoke of earlier, where the potholes and stuff are in the road. But we are addressing it. So again, we'll just follow up on that.
No, just a question to Mr. Gibbs. Where is the constituency office of St. Michael West located? Where is the office of St. Michael West located? Is there a telephone number that can be made public either via the party's page? I have no idea, because I have been trying to get through to you over the last few weeks, days, and haven't been able. So I don't know if the number have changed, or what is the position, or who's your assistant, or not. I'm not sure.
Yes, I can give you that information right now. The number is located in Hines Building, Cheapside, Bridgetown. But we can get together and give you the number and all the information.
And just another question is, just my opinion, would it be better to have an office in your constituency?
Yes, the plan is to do that, is to get an office in the constituency. It's just that when I first started as a candidate, it was convenient at the time for me, and it actually is centrally located as well. But I have a plan to actually move into the constituency of St. Michael West from next year.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening, good night. Good evening, good night. I'm Colin Williams from St. Michael West Central Gazettes. I want this front table of the Barbados Labour Party to take matters that people come here very seriously. Some things sound awkward, but they're true. People don't leave home and come here and speak these things. The issue with the hospital is true, and it's a very serious thing, and I'm saying they like how the Prime Minister handled it. It should be handled in a very private way, and I agree with it for that, because there are things that can't go and be said. I know, I have family with the hospital, I know that. It's a very serious case at the hospital. People have been threatened to chase me and all that kind of foolishness. And I'm saying that it should be done with in a proper manner, as the Prime Minister said, done in a proper manner. My case is not that. My case this evening is that the issue of environmental health. I am living in a place called Pilsdorf Development, because that's St. Michael, in St. Michael West Central. I was a former environmental health officer, and I'm speaking on what I know. I've been getting in trouble for the last 6 years or more, maybe 7 years, to get anything done down there. There's a place called Black Rock Cantonment. It is the Banquetet Polyclinics. I've been having this problem for a long time. I get what to answer me, because all the Barbados know you call, left a message, Every you call, every government department is left a message. They can't get to nobody. It is true. I can break that. Okay? It is true. I can break it. I want to speak from my mind. And it's bad because taxpayers are paying money for these things and to get help. And if the government service can be with that, it's bad. I want to tell you that if you have, it's not going to give the government service another wage increase, then look at work here. You all have to work. And I can't tell people, left the message. I'm serious about this. For 6 years, I tried to get through to that clinic and can't get no help. The place has a water course. The last government, the water course that come from St. Thomas, the last government let people build houses in it. It's been blocked up. Had a pond too. It's been blocked up. Nobody would take me on. I call day by day. You can't get through to Banquetet Polyclinic. When you call, somebody says, this body's not here. The chief is not in. I've been called up to last week. I got on to the chief some time ago. A month ago, she promised to see me personally. In my area I live, They have a house that have 3 motor cars, old bush, all kinds wrong it. Lots are not clean. The water has not been clean for a long time. I called some time ago, and they will not even answer me. I went to Bramwell Polyclinic, and the chief there, I was saying how he felt about my mind, tell his guard to put me out, and he put me out. And he went, yes, I didn't feel bad about it. The chief called the guard, the chief that I was to speak to, called the guard and tell me that I am behaving, I just try to tell them that this is too long, and he put me out, okay? And I had nothing to say about that. I called her, get back to her again the other day, she promised me 5 weeks to go to come, she has not come. This part down there have, look, I called Mayor Bradshaw at the Nation, she can prove to this. About 7 months ago, she took the picture and put it in the Nation, nothing hasn't happened. How long can he continue with this? A man who worked 34 years in the department, serving people all over Barbados. How long can he continue, Prime Minister? How long can he continue with this? It's unfair to people, unfair to taxpayers. I want your government to get the minister, your government to get behind these people and make sure they do these things. Because this is not foolery. We went through COVID and people suffer. Some people get sent home and suffer and was very worried about it. I had to help. And you have government service over there, don't want to answer people on the phone, not even see them. I thank you.
Mr. Williams, I haven't heard a lot of what you said, regrettably, because of the mic. But what I want to urge you to do, Colin, sir, what I want to urge you to do is to meet with Mr. Morris here after, and let me get to the bottom of that which has caused you great consternation. So, hold on, I'm telling you, look, when you finish.
I spoke to him already, he called me. Last week, twice, he called me. Prime Minister, I spoke to Mr. Morris. Somebody at the ministry tell me call Mr. Morris.
And my dear, I am asking you to just, he will send me a report. Okay? Just work with us, Colin.
But I've done it before. I'm
asking you to meet with him and let us get to the bottom of it. If I understood half of what you said. I don't know. I asked others at the table if they understood what you said.
I spoke to Mr. Morris twice last week. And you haven't got back to me yet. Tell me that university and you can't get to me yet. Twice last week.
And that is because he has been on rubbing shoulders Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Colin. So if you would just bear with us and let us understand what you are saying, because if everybody else, I was with you about nobody answering the phone, but I didn't understand what else you said. I swear to God. So just bear with us. Talking into the mic ain't gonna make it easier.
Nobody's answering you, nor seeing you. There's two things. Seeing or answer verbally or otherwise. Nobody's seeing or answering you.
And therefore, let me get the report and let us investigate it. Okay?
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening to the head table, Madam Prime Minister, Madam Deputy Prime Minister, members of Parliament, everyone. Can you hear me now? Yes. All right. All right, so my question is, I just wanted to know if there's any update on the integrity legislation as it relates to the select committee getting something back to the Senate for them to debate.
Okay, before that, what's your name, sir?
My name is William Gordon. Gordon.
Where are you from?
I'm from St. Michael, South Central.
Just a district. I don't need constituencies.
Wildy in St. Michael.
And what is your concern about which select committee, sorry?
The select committee with regard to the integrity legislation.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, that Parliament died, so that it comes back. There's no select committee before this current Parliament.
Okay.
You understand? The select committee reported. To the best of my knowledge, didn't this pass? It was the other one that passed, the prevention of the corruption one. So trust me, this will come back. But it can't, there's no current select committee for it.
So what then is the status of the bill, if I may ask?
My dear, the first bill that was passed, that was sent to this parliament, was a bill that required the constitutional majority of both houses of parliament. You remember that?
I do.
It was to pass a bill to change the age for persons to serve in parliament. That a person can vote at 18, but cannot serve in parliament until 21, correct? It got defeated in the Senate because we do not have control of the numbers for a constitutional majority. In spite of that fact, this cabinet, from May 2018, end of May 2018, when we first met, took a decision for the submission of all of the declaration of assets of every single minister to be submitted to the cabinet office. I don't know where they are. The cabinet secretary has complete possession of it. So in spite of the fact that we have not been able to get past a constitutional amendment for which, even though we have the numbers in the lower house, we do not have the numbers in the upper house. We are in a position to be able to move forward in a way that we respect the substance of what the integrity legislation would impose on us, even if it is not there. Now, I say this because this is not the first time that the Senate of Barbados shut down integrity legislation. You're aware of that?
I am, yes.
And therefore, the parliamentary reform is perhaps the one thing that we have to confront, because in this matter, previously, the independent senators under Tom Adams's administration refused to agree to the passage of such legislation. And similarly again, it was not passed here again. So I can only hope that yourself and us and others will continue the advocacy. But herein lies the problem. And I don't know whether you've done any research in Trinidad and elsewhere. And David Thompson, as Prime Minister, spoke to this in a press conference in either 2000, I think it was 2009 or 10, where, when asked why he had not brought the legislation, started to reflect on the fact that regrettably, the people willing to serve, especially in statutory boards and state-owned enterprises, dropped significantly in Trinidad and Tobago and other jurisdictions because of the invasive nature of the declaration of assets. And largely because the declaration of assets in those circumstances would have extended to spouses and children and etc. Even though we do not have that, the banks and financial institutions globally, including obviously therefore Barbados, have introduced the notion of something called PEPs. You know what PEPs are?
I do not.
PEPs are politically exposed persons. And therefore, I have no husband, I have no children, but my brothers and sisters would have been subject to restricted activity in the course of their normal lives as a result of being related to a politically exposed person. And these are the conversations that we have to have, recognizing that for me, going forward and doing the declaration of assets is something that I do willingly. But there are some people that each of the people here would have asked to serve as board chair or deputy chair, who say immediately that they do not want to serve, not because they don't have the capacity to serve or even the inclination to serve, but that after discussion with their families, they do not want to become politically exposed persons. So I raise these issues here because it is important that people understand the complexity of the conversation and not believe that this is just something that is one way, all the way so. And that there are consequences in particular for the governance of small states, because people who might otherwise be able to give solid contributions, because of the manner in which we have gone so far one way, are now excluding themselves from consideration in the process of governance of the country. But thank you for raising it, and I encourage you to help us encourage those who have the responsibility, and more so as independents, to recognize that there is a balance that we need to strike. And the beautiful thing is that they need not be afraid, because this is not stuff that's going to the public, but remains in the hands of an integrity commission who have a fiduciary duty to treat to it in a confidential manner and to take action only where is substantive breaches that have taken place. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, panel. Good evening, Madam Prime Minister. My name is Menelik Richards from East London, but I'm currently staying at Atlantic Shores. Oh, sorry. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, panel. Good evening, Madam Prime Minister. My name is Menelik Richards from East London, but I'm currently staying at Atlantic Shores. I'm a teacher from London. However, I have Barbadian ancestry and roots. So I'm part of the Barbadian diaspora, and I would love to teach here. And I had the fortune of volunteering for a day at Bay Primary School, and it was an incredible experience. However, when I compare the experience from my teaching in London to working for that one day in Bay Primary School in Barbados, I recognized that there weren't any teaching assistants here. And I am working remotely as a teacher. So I have a whiteboard and a whiteboard pen. So I walked around the classroom and helped many children who didn't quite get the concept quite quickly enough. And at the end of the lessons, all of the children were really appreciative of my assistance. And I think it could be a great opportunity to boost education here, and also could provide many jobs for quite a number of Barbadians. And I was wondering if there's any space for that as part of educational reform. And also I just want to say, hopefully this doesn't fall under the rubric of hero worshipping, but you are a champion of the Global South, Madam Prime Minister, and you've inspired so many people from the Caribbean community back in England and from across the world from what I can see. So I just want to congratulate you on doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I really want to thank you for sharing that perspective as well as the idea. I was just looking to my right because the Minister of Education was with us a few minutes ago. If she's still here, I'd like to encourage you to just take a walk and speak with her there. I know that they are in the process of refining the last aspects of the education reform paper that will be the subject of parish discussion and national discussion. And therefore, I think that all ideas must contend. Kay, you came back at the right time, and this gentleman here will have a quick conversation with you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Good evening, Madam Prime Minister, and good evening to the head table. My name is Barbara Hunt. My concern before I get to that, my mom passed away on Monday.
So sorry
Kurt,
to hear, Barbara.
I need to speak to you when I finish. Madam Prime Minister, my concern is this. In 2008, Ray Thompson said, all who live in a house for 20 years will get the house free. I is one of the people that get the house.
Sorry, who are you referring to?
The whole national housing.
No. Who were you referring to?
I say Thompson.
Who's Thompson?
David Thompson. Sorry,
Sorry.
Prime Minister Thompson.
Former
sorry.
Prime Minister
Former
David
Prime Minister
Thompson. Thank you.
I apologize for that. I apologize for that, man. You know, I get old and I don't remember everything, so.
Not you, Barbara.
I am 67 years old, Madam Prime Minister.
And nobody will believe you. So if you want people to listen to you, tell them your correct age so that they will believe you now.
But I retired, so I will have to be 67. Hours to this day, I cannot get, every time I call National Housing or I go to National Housing and ask about piece of paper for the house, nobody say, this is what I am hearing. Well, we ain't get round there yet. We got a surveyor. And this was going on for a long time. I would like to know when National Housing going to survey the houses. That they can tell me it is mine and I get piece of paper that when I gone, nobody will put out my sign.
Okay. The issue is far more complex than that, Barbara. And in a sense, an announcement was made without the capacity to deliver on the announcement with respect to the conveyances across each and every housing estate. Part of the difficulty is that a lot of persons, for example, made adjustments to their individual units without planning permission. Another part of the problem is that some of the housing estates don't have proper, party walls, and then the other ones don't have ring beams and require a no fire thing. So that there are a multiplicity of problems to resolve in order to be able to ensure that every person who is entitled gets it. We have been working on it, and we are trying to see how we can cure it through a legislative cure rather than the individual conveyances in the way in which you would normally expect it to be done. And there's a reason for it, because the registrar's conveyance, which is what is done in a foreclosure where people don't have the title deeds at all, and somebody go and say this piece is yours and that piece is yours and that piece is yours. 100 years ago, Bajans found a way for converting possession into ownership by a mechanism called a foreclosure suit, which is really just a fictitious mortgage suit. But what it did was to bring the matter into the jurisdiction of the court and allow the court to decide competing interests. You advertise, whoever feel they got a claim to the land, come forward, and the court decide who got the better claim to the land. 95% of the time, it is the people who have applied for the foreclosure suit, because more often than not, they've been living on the land for decades. But what it does is that it gives us a registrar's conveyance, which is the most perfect form of title because it overrides everything else that would have existed before. I'm sorry that the Attorney General is not here tonight, but suffice it to say that what we cannot cure within the context of individual conveyances, we are trying to see if we can cure by reason of a statute. But it does mean understanding all of the issues that are stopping us. Now, you would remember that a few people got conveyances already, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And those were the ones that were the lowest hanging fruit. The ones that have not gotten it invariably are caught up then in some of the reasons that I've just said.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am sorry that, as I said, the AG isn't here. Mr. Lord, I see you standing up. You want to talk? Or am I misleading the public? I am not misleading the public. Thank you. So that, yeah, no problem. The bottom line is that we will ensure that we give you a report through the Minister of Housing in the near future as to where we are in the preparation of trying to find a legislative solution for what would otherwise be done by thousands of individual conveyances for the reasons that I just gave. There are some units, and I'm fooling the body, the ones built in the 1950s, that were we to convey them to you, you would really want to know what kind of government we are. Because there is no steel and there is no proper thing in those units. And when it was brought to the cabinet by the then Minister of Housing, the cabinet said, no, we are going to have to take care of these people through the provision of new housing arrangements. And that is why you keep hearing us talk about now unlocking what is to be a silent revolution in housing. But Santi would tell you that before we get there, we got people in Reese Road to relocate. We got people in Hurricane Elsa who's still waiting for housing. We got people in White Hill to relocate. People in Chalky Mount to relocate. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's why I call this government the vacuum cleaner. Because all we're doing is cleaning up what we've found. But in that group of people must also be the residents of those who lived in the early housing units that cannot now be the subject of appropriate conveyance of title. Okay? So I would like to tell you that I can do this and make it happen overnight, but we would be lying to you. And what needs to be done is to ensure that when you get the piece of paper, that if you choose to sell it or bequeath it to somebody, that what you are doing is real and proper and not just a figment of imagination, as has happened regrettably for the last, how many years it is now? 14 years. Okay?
Okay.
So we'll get the Ministry of Housing and the AG to update us on the timelines for it. Where's Mr. Gordon?
Thank you.
Mr. Gordon, the AG, who is not well this evening, has texted to say that the draft bill, is ready now to be brought back to Parliament, and that many of the issues that were raised by the Senate have been dealt with, but I can only tell you that you and others need to help us now in persuading the independent senators that it is worthy of passage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I think we are about to set a record for what should be the largest parish speaks by filtering out persons with individual personal difficulties and directing them to the appropriate agency. We've taken out a significant number of persons who would have been standing at the microphone. So unless there is some major issue or something that is important to you that you want to raise, the mic is available, or we will give Prime Minister and your St. Michael MPs, anyone who wants to speak, the chance to wrap up.
Any more comments? Yes, sir. There are two people.
Good night, Charles Lovell, Welches, St. Michael. I've already raised a matter concerning Lovell's Drive, which is in body need of.
Concerning what, sorry?
Lovell's Drive. Yeah, I live in Lovell's Drive, and my name is Charles Lovell.
You sure it is not a personal matter?
Not very personal.
I'm only teasing you.
But I didn't come here to raise that matter because I was assured by the goody minister that that would be looked into, and my representative will make sure that is done as well. What I want to raise, though, is a question, a matter just beyond that, and I'm about Bridge Road. I raised this matter before, but I didn't get the chance to address it. At the Bridge Road, there are some stoplights. And those of us who live in the constituency will know that every morning and evening at peak times is a line at Bridge Road going all up back Welches Post Office, only because that vehicle on Bridge Road that is turning right is not allowed to turn. So there are moments when no vehicle at all moves from Bridge Road because that first vehicle that turning right can't make the right turn. I wanted to suggest, I've done it before, that we can do a system which is similar to Deacon's Road, where on Bridge Road, Bridge Road works independently of the other side Bank Hall, while the other two, Station Hill and Hinesbury Road, remain as they are. And I believe strongly before I go to the grave that that will solve the problem immensely. So I'm asking for that the Bridge Road stoplight work independently and not with the other side at Bank Hall. That's all I'm asking for. Are you surprised it takes all that traffic off that Bridge Road in that one turn, only because his first vehicle cannot turn? That's my concern tonight, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Lovell. And what you've done is also to remind me that that which was supposed to be a temporary roundabout at Commermere, which I spoke about yesterday, which now is the subject of almost having derelict and abandoned yellow poles laying more on the ground than they are vertical, needs also to be made permanent. So I'm sure that Santia and the public officials from Ministry of Public Works have heard both you and me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not about as financial, but I'll talk to you.
Anyone else before we wrap up? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. I also want to thank the public officials and the organizers. Many of you will note that we have a new setup tonight, which clearly has worked well. There are a number of tables where different departments that would be the subject of persons' concerns have been here, and as you heard Mr. Morris say, we've been able to send persons directly to those tables and to ensure that people don't need to make their personal business public. Secondly, I'd like to thank those of you who turned out. We are conscious that in St. Michael in particular, conversations best happen in the middle of communities. And you have to understand the culture of different parishes. Christchurch is a parish where people will come to town hall meetings, as we saw, in their huge numbers. St. Michael is a parish where people tend to stand back and talk to you when you are in their community. It is against that backdrop, therefore, as recent as last night, Trevor, as we had in the Ivy, that we have made commitments and in the city to go back into individual pockets to meet with persons, some with government officials where necessary, some directly. And then finally, I want to commend Kirk and Corey, as I said, for leading the Wise Up discussions, which are to be done without media, because they're just simply some conversations that we need to have with people in their communities that are not the subject of media coverage, but allow us to deal with people's issues in a real and direct way, especially at this time when people are finding it difficult to continue to cope because of the continued problems that we've faced in the last 3 years. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and to wish everyone a safe journey home and look forward. This is the last Parish Speaks for the year. In January, we start back and we start with St. Lucy. St. Lucy Speaks, and I look forward then to engaging with all of you again. And I thank the public officials without whom this conversation and this exercise in democracy could not be possible. We do not take it for granted that those of you have come here to help us service the needs of ordinary Barbadians in this exercise of parish engagement. Thank you. God bless. Happy Independence and Happy Christmas.